Hey everybody, I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com and welcome to my best of video for the lowering spring category, available for your 2005 to 2009 Mustang. Now, the purpose of these best of videos is to help you guys narrow down your choices a little bit when you're looking for a lowered S197. Maybe you're after a mild drop, or maybe you're looking for a wild drop, or maybe you're just after a competition-specific spring like road racing or drag racing. Whatever the case, we're gonna help you narrow that down here today based off of customer popularity, in addition to my own personal feedback as well when it comes to selecting the right spring for your ride. But why lower that early S197 in the first place? Well, plain and simple, the factory ride height sucks. It just does not look good, and usually it's one of the first things owners fix through the aftermarket. Now, eliminating that factory wheel gap will definitely help your appearance, but that lower center of gravity will also help improve your handling and your performance as well. A set of springs is definitely gonna be the easiest and cheapest way to do this. However, you can always look into options like air ride or coilovers, both of which will give you some adjustability, but both of which will be considerably more expensive than the springs we're talking about here today. So how do you know what spring is right for you and your Mustang? Well, if you've been shopping around, you've probably discovered a lot of options out there. Everything from a mild drop all the way down to the wild drops that will give the car a slam look for a more modified appearance, and everything in between. So without further ado, what do you say we get into my mild pick here for the 05 to 09 Springs? Let's start things off by taking a closer look at my choice for a mild drop, and for that I went with the most popular lowering springs on the site for the S197, the SR Performance Lowering Springs. Now, the SR option is going to be for those 05 to 09 owners out there who want to take advantage of only a slightly lower ride height, but at the same time don't want to have to worry about scraping on every driveway or speed bump in town. The SR springs are going to lower the car 1.5 inches both front and rear, which in my opinion will be the perfect drop for the 05 to 09 Mustangs, because it's just enough to get rid of that factory wheel gap, but at the same time maintain the slightest bit of rake, meaning your front end will be slightly lower than the rear. I think it's the perfect muscle car stance and looks right at home on the S197. The SR springs also feature what is called a progressive spring rate, and that basically means that the spring is going to progressively firm up the harder it is compressed, which is another common trait you'll see with most of the springs in the category. Progressive springs are going to be a little bit better suited for the daily drivers out there, at least in my opinion, thanks to that lighter initial spring rate, which will help make things a little bit more comfy while on the road and not so jarring. In fact, you are going to be looking at a 230-pound front spring and a 200-pound rear spring, respectively. I actually have a good bit of experience with the SR Performance Lowering Springs, as it was one of my first modifications I did to my 2014 GT and had no complaints whatsoever. The car rode real good, it wasn't too bouncy, and honestly I got a lot of compliments on how the car sat. And honestly, if you do want more feedback, check out the product page here at AM and the 100+ 5-star reviews on the SR Performance Springs, in addition to the customer submitted images. It's a great way to figure out how your own ride might sit with these things installed. Again, not the flashiest spring out there, but they get the job done and for not a lot of dough. But what if you crave a little bit more? You absolutely love that slam look and want to get as low as possible with the spring. Well, for that, I recommend the Eyebox Portlines. Now, anytime anyone asks me about what spring will give them the lowest ride height, I immediately default to the Eyebox Portlines because it continues to be one of the most aggressive springs for a number of different generations and was an easy choice for my wild spring in this video. But breaking down the drop a little bit more, here's what you can expect. 1.3 inches up front, which is actually less than our SR Performance spring, but a whopping 2 inches in the rear, which is gonna get that car down low and get rid of some of the rake that is present in factory form. Now basically this is going to make for a more leveled appearance both front to back, which some people might like. Others might prefer that nose down look of the SR Performance springs. Either way, it's definitely one of the bigger drops in the category. Just like the SR Performance springs, the Sportlines also feature that progressive spring rate, and more specifically are going to include a 184-pound front spring and a rear spring ranging from 103 pounds to 207 pounds to be exact. The Sportlines also have an overwhelmingly positive rating here at AM, with well over 100+ 5-star reviews and a ton of customer submitted images. So again, feel free to check out the product page to help you decide if these springs are going to deliver the look you're going for. But what if you're looking for more than just good looks and better handling on that daily driver? What happens when you're serious about racing your Mustang, whether in a straight line or on a road course? Well, luckily for you guys, there are manufacturers out there who have something to improve your performance, whether drag racing or otherwise. Now, if straight line racing is your thing, you might want to check out the BMR drag springs, my choice for top drag spring on the site and a favorite with a lot of S197 owners out there. BMR definitely knows their thing when it comes to Mustangs and suspension and have been making cars handle better and 60-foot better for many years. The drag springs do feature a linear 200-pound spring rate along with a 1.5-inch drop on all four corners, making for a nice look of course, but more importantly, a spring that will help you leave the line consistently once installed. Now pair these things up with an adjustable shock in the rear like a Viking or Strange, and you'll be lowering those 60-foot times before you know it. But what if simply going straight just isn't your thing? You prefer the twists and turns of a road course or a back road to the straight line of a drag strip. Well, for that, I would look towards one of the most popular springs on the site for road course or handling performance, and that would be the Steeda Sport Springs. As far as drop, well, you're looking at just over an inch for the rear and exactly an inch up front with spring rates of 200 pounds for the front and 175 pounds for the rear. So yes, you are going a little bit lower with these springs, but that's not the main focus. Instead, Steeda focuses in on producing a very predictable spring thanks to using what is called a linear or standard spring rate, just like our BMR drag springs. And this is going to be a little bit different from our first two options, the SR Performance Spring and the Eyebox Lowering Spring, which both utilize that progressive or varying spring rate. Now at the linear rate, you're going to be getting the same spring rate no matter how hard the spring is compressed, which will again make for a very predictable experience while on the drag strip, or in this case, on the road course when pushing the car hard in turns. Now, they might not be as comfortable while daily driving because you're not going to have that softer initial spring rate to work with like a progressive spring, but that doesn't mean you can't install these on your daily. In fact, many of our customers have with great results. Now, I do want to point out that no matter what spring choice you end up going with, they will all pretty much install the same way, using a lift, jack or jack stands, an assortment of sockets and wrenches, and finally a spring compressor. Now, spring installs on the S197 chassis really isn't all that bad, and traditionally I do call it a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty scale and maybe a few hours to complete from start to finish, depending on your setup and just how fast you like to work. Finally, I always like recommending getting your alignment checked out and corrected after a spring installation. Now, depending on how low you go, you might need to include things like caster camber plates or camber bolts if your factory components can no longer get you back in the spec. You also might want to consider going with an adjustable panhard bar to help you center that rear axle back under the car for those lower spring drops in the rear. Either way, your local alignment shop should be able to advise you on some of this if you have any more questions. Well guys, that's going to wrap us up here for my best of video for the spring category, available for your 2005 to 2009 Mustang. Now keep in mind, these are just a handful of many different spring options you're going to find on the site. So if you're still on the fence after this video, I encourage you to check out some of our other options here at AM. Thanks for watching, and for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.